Colombia begins suspending student protesters. University officials gave the pro-Palestinian demonstrators a 2 p.m. deadline and threatened to suspend them if they did not leave. But I'd like you to take a look at this image. And what do you see? The People's Library. Oh, wow. Welcome to the People's University of Palestine. All right, look. It's very obvious to anybody who knows anything about these protests, they don't care about Israel. They care about flavor of the month, cause of the month. And as I've often described, when it comes to wokeness, there is no underlying moral ideology other than what we are is moral, period. If the hive decides Palestine is the issue, then the hive flocks to Palestine. All of a sudden, nobody cares about China. Nobody cares about, the Uyghur Muslims. Nobody cares about Sudan. Nobody cares about Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Afghanistan. It all just becomes Israel. And of course, we had George Floyd. It all just becomes Black Lives Matter. It all becomes trans rights. This is just another outpouring of young, blanket, woke leftism with no real cause. However, it does end up focusing on Israel, which pisses off the U.S. government and their foreign policy. And you end up with, we got these weird calls from Democrats to shut down what they're calling anti-Jewish protests. And it definitely seems like a stretch, like they're the only way they can deal with this is to accuse them of being anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish. And while it is fair to say there certainly are instances of anti-Semitism, which I will show you in a video, we have another instance. This is just general wokeness. It's general leftism. And I suppose the issue is, to kick it off, young people are on TikTok. TikTok was telling them, trans rights and feminism and Black Lives Matter. And the deep state and the Democrats really were totally fine with it. Republicans wanted to ban it. Then when it turns anti-Israel, and now wokeness has just like mindless zombies marched into the Israel argument, now all of a sudden TikTok's got to go. But I think that just shows, as we saw in that video of that young woman, when you go to these protests and ask, what are you protesting? They're like, I have no idea.
No, I think there is sort of a hive mind mentality. It's the buzzword, right? This is a trendy thing. I mean, I think these people picture themselves as saying to their grandchildren, well, when I was in college, we demonstrated for Gaza. Like that will be some badge of honor. It's the way that feminists in the past said, when I was in college, I, protested so that I could wear pants to class or whatever. Like it is the cause of the generation, right? It's trendy right now. But I don't know that any of them are as deeply committed as they think they might be. And I think that's why you would get these clips of people saying, the group that's leading a lot of this is called Divest Apartheid, and no one knows what that means. No one knows what they're talking about. Divest Apartheid? They're just like, we don't want you to spend money on this anymore. None of these students have an action plan. No one has a set of demands.
I'll break down for you. Some kids are hanging out of college, and someone's like, hey, you want to go to the camp? Like, what's going on? It's like a party, dude. It's like Burning Man. And they're like, yeah, let's go. And so they bring a tent and they hang out because it's fun. And you ask them on camera, like, what do you protest? They're like, I just think that we want NYU to, what are they doing? I don't know. I wish I knew. That's literally what they
were
said.
Like, we don't even go here. We go to Columbia, but we heard NYU is protesting, so we're in. And again, maybe they should have better sports teams so they can all camp out for tickets or something. Put this energy somewhere useful.
Sports are literally not are something that Gen Z is not interested in. We actually talked about that today or the other day on PCC. Gen Z is just not. They don't participate in sports. They're not interested in sports for whatever reason. So nowadays the social activity is activism. And it seems like ever since Occupy Wall Street, and definitely since George Floyd, that's been the kind of the way that young people kind of get together and
virtue signal.
Yeah, well, not only that, but also socialize.
See, I think it's that they were rewarded repeatedly. All of these people who applied to Columbia, that guy we were talking about on Friday who was leading the protest and got in trouble, he wrote his college admissions essay on the fact that he was fighting systemic racism. This is something that they know, or typically they can do and be rewarded for.
Which is why I don't necessarily feel bad for any of these administrators, right? They've let these radical left kids in. They've put them first.
They've created them. They didn't let them in because the humanities departments are literally creating these
So it frustrates
opinions.
me as a conservative to see people like Mike Johnson go and try to police it, break it up. People like Governor Abbott's doing the same thing. Never interrupt your enemy when they're fighting amongst themselves. These are both Marxists on both sides. They're arguing, they're bickering. It's a fracturing within the leftist party in this country, and conservatives should just kind of let them fight it out and just hands off.
I hear that. I got no beef with Mike Johnson wanting to pull funding from these universities.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm like,
totally
sure.
on board with that. But you don't need to go there personally and try to, you're being drowned out by the protesters. You look weak. You're wasting time. You can be, fighting in Congress, putting forward America First bills, stopping that aid, not just grandstanding at Columbia.
Yeah, I'm done with the my free speech argument is amended once more. For years, like in the 2010s, it was, we must defend the speech of even the people we disagree with. And then Marxists started screaming, we don't deserve speech rights. And I was like, well, that's your right to say it. And then they started physically attacking people and getting people suspended and banned. And then I decided, I'm not, and this was like 4 years ago, I was like, I'm done defending people who are actively trying to take away my speech rights. If you are for free speech, I'll protect your free speech. I'll defend your free speech. If you oppose it, you get the governance you ask for.
The left. Go ahead.
Just the main point. These protesters are the same people who show up to physically beat old women. And I'm not kidding. In Berkeley, you can search for this on YouTube. They threw M80s at old women in it was a park in Berkeley because they were waving little flat flags, American flags or whatever. So these people want to organize behind violence. There's a video we'll show in a second of them refusing at UCLA to allow a Jewish student to walk to class. They're barring him entry. And he's like, why can't I go? And he's got his hands in the air. And then they scream, oh no, help. They're trying to shut us down and take away our free speech. And I'm like, good. Let the police come and clear it all out. I don't care.
This is a great example of something that I've talked about a bunch of times. Herb Marcuse wrote a paper called Repressive Tolerance. And it's emblematic or what's going on here is emblematic of the ideas in that paper. The idea that you have to shut down other people's speech. They say this is an area where you can't come in, and we're going to bar you from coming into this area. So they're making it their own property and saying that they have some kind of right about it, but they're telling other people that if there are Jewish kids even there, that they disrupt the people that are on campus and stuff. So it's constantly demonstrating over and over and over what looks to people like double standards. And it's emblematic of the way that the left operates. They constantly are saying, this is unacceptable behavior when you do it, but yet they're trying to do the same thing.
Right. But I was Kingsley on this one. Like, this is the house they built, and if it collapses on them, let it be. I don't think that these institutions
throw fuel on the fires.
I don't think these institutions serve Americans, really.
No.
Like, it encourages this weird leftist elitism where they're like, you must go to college, and the best colleges are here. But to get into this best college, you have to be woke, right? We don't actually want diversity here. We want diversity in race and ethnicity. We do not want diversity in thought. Conservatives are not actually welcome in these places. And you see that with the staff, right? There were professors who were like circling around students today, trying to protect them. They've released statements saying, they're being unfairly targeted. They're doing the right thing. I mean, I'm sure that's not every single professor at Columbia, but it's enough where you say, actually, you wanted this all the way through, and this is the fruits of the labor you put into your admissions and hiring process.
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, exactly. These people, they were fine with the revolution until it came for them.
Mm-hmm.
They championed it, they supported it, and now that they're being classified...
They thought they'd be the vanguard.
Right, exactly. But now they're being classified in the paradigm they've put forward, right? Oppressed versus oppressor, and they hate it. And I don't feel sorry for them necessarily.
I don't. I mean, the thing is, I think you should protest. That's excellent. I just think if the American youth were to protest for something, I wish it had been the border wall. I wish it had been for reduction in immigration. I wish it was for a better Secretary of Transportation who actually was competent and wanted to fix the roads and bridges and railways. Like, there are so many things that I would like to see the American youth championing, especially American youth who are at these very elite institutions, right? Like, when you go to an Ivy League school, people still look at that as being something worth giving extra attention to. And this is what they have decided is their number one cause. It's just to me not in the best service of our country.
I'm thinking about how frustrating it is that all these, Democrats and Republicans are like, they're anti-Semites because they're protesting. And I'm like, you can say it a million times, there's a difference, but that doesn't matter. What matters is if these politicians are saying it, these college students need to realize that business executives and leaders are going to say the same thing. Whether you care if it's true or not, it doesn't matter. If they're telling you your protest is anti-Semitic, and you can argue all day and night till you're blue in the face that it's not, when you go for that job interview, and they're going to be like, I saw you on TV at that protest at Columbia, we're not hiring you. That's it. No job.
Yeah, it's long-term consequences for them. I mean, in some ways, it's the effect that I think so many people have felt on the right when they, are doing something, get labeled, racist or whatever, and that tag sticks with them forever, whether it's true or not. And I'm not trying to say that there are probably moments of anti-Semitism at all of these protests, but overall, it's a label that I think right now a lot of people are trying to use to scare the students away from what they're doing, especially, I've said this a couple times, especially as we get closer to the summer, because I don't actually believe every single person who's sitting in a camp at Columbia is a Columbia student, right? There are other people there.
They're not. There was a list of our people arrested. I think Andy No published this, and many of them are not students.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker.
It's a dry run for what's coming.
Well, this is another reason why I think it's actually fair to say the protests should be removed. Because first, there should be action taken to stop the protesters from attacking people, which they've done, from barring people from coming in for nebulous reasons. One video showing a guy wearing a Star of David, they won't let him in. There's one video where a guy looks very Jewish. This is at Yale, wouldn't let him in. And people, I see people arguing, yeah, well, they were doing weird things. And I'm like, don't care. If this is being reported and it's happening, then we should just immediately be like, yo, you can't do these things at a protest. Alex Stein went down. They physically attacked him. Okay, so they should be like, first things first, before the protests are removed, we're going to actually moderate to prevent these kinds of illegal actions from happening. And if that can't be stopped, then I think it's fair to say this is an unlawful assembly and you got to disperse. If there are people who are not students occupying student grounds and barring other students from being able to use it or come in, yeah, okay, that's trespassing. And if they can't figure out who it is, or it's really simple. If 10 of 100 people are not students, they need to figure out who's not a student and say, like, you can't be here trespassing and you're restricting grounds for other people. I got to be completely honest, though. I think they should just completely remove the camps. Protest all you want, stand around all you want, wave flags, come every single day. But taking the ground from other people, I say no way.
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy to see the universities intervene. Just because you have the right to protest doesn't mean that the university, which funds and maintains that property, can't fight back. I think ultimately I'm interested in seeing what happens again as we get closer to the summer, right? USC canceled their graduation. Columbia is like 2 weeks away from graduation. When we have both, free agents who would do this professionally, but also just students who are interested in this cause, who now have the time to go sit in on any of these encampments, will they become more entrenched, or will the schools be able to break them up before they become sort of intensely unmanageable?
You want to say something?
Well, I'm just wondering, what do you guys think the likelihood of this having the intensity to be a actual something that actually sets people off to have serious protests in the summer when they're not at school? Do you guys think that this will get people into the streets?
Well, they're in the streets.
Yeah, and I think they have the resources to do it. Like a lot of people have pointed out that the tents at all these encampments, even though they're, across the country, are the exact same. These kids are large, they're funded by large donors. So I think they have the network and the support to really make this a big thing going into the summer.
Take a look at this map. So this is a map of, this is from the 26th even. This is not even from the 29th. This is an updated map as of the 26th of all the places where there were protests. The bigger the dot, the more arrests that have happened there. Look how many protests have popped up all over the country because people hate Israel. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.